Today, we explore an exciting theme. Bulolo Jonga, a man of many trades. In one place, the power of your voice with Mike Murphy.
Hey, welcome everybody to the Power of Your Voice podcast. And I'm your host, Mike Murphy, and we got a special show for you this week. I'm super excited. Hey, do you ever wonder, who am I? No, really, who are you? Or why you're here? Or what is your purpose? And what kind of legacy are you going to leave? Do you care? Is it important to you? Is it good or is it bad? When you leave this place, is it going to be better off because you were here? Just some questions that we're going to ponder. We're going to talk about my guest, who's a young man that cut his teeth in the digital marketing world, became very successful, and then evolved into more of a spiritual teacher. He's got some very unique concepts on that. He's a great writer, and just excited to share him with you. And he's here in my home today in Medellin, Colombia. So that's an extra, no Zoom, always extra excited to have someone here in person. And his name is Bulolo Jonga.
Yes, sir.
Bueno. Okay, I introduce you. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself, if you would.
Yeah, so I'm Bulolo Jonga. I graduated from Pitzer College in California.
What's the name of it?
Pitzer College.
Pitzer. Where is that?
I'm in Claremont, California.
Okay,
So it's like inland from Los Angeles.
Okay.
Right before I got into college, actually, I got a little bit entrepreneurial. I went to a boarding school in Connecticut. It's called Taft School. And at that summer, I was thinking about what I wanted to do with my life. I cared about helping people, but I didn't see the practical path to do that through, let's say, traditional means. You know, I care about psychology. I studied that in college, but being a psychologist felt limiting to me. I had to follow these strict rules and regulations, and that I felt inherently restricted my ability to really, really impact people in the way that is transformative.
Right.
So throughout that journey, I got exposed to businesses, affiliate marketing, and that's when I got into personal development. I was a very motivated person. I cared a lot about, self-activation, motivation, all that kind of stuff. And somehow along that journey, that ambition for, let's say, worldly success and motivating people turned into a deep, transformative and internal journey to activate myself and to realize truth. From that point forward, I emphasized presence. I emphasized things that you learn through Buddhism and other kind of religions, the essence of what they all teach. And about in 2018, after getting out of a relationship, dealing with some heartbreak, and preparing for my next steps forward beyond affiliate marketing.
Okay, time out. You've covered a lot of ground right there.
I tend to do that.
I got 20 questions. All right, so
ask them.
So let's say, first of all, I'm curious about one thing: is where did that desire come from to help others, to serve others? So where were you raised? What were your parents like? You ended up in boarding school. What was that like? And where does this spirit come from? Because there's a foundation, there's an upbringing, there's programming from your childhood. So can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Right. So I'm the child, first generation child of two immigrant parents.
From where?
From Uganda.
Uganda.
And being the first one born here, I'm the youngest of two siblings, and being the first
American,
being American, right? Being a culture to that, kind of not fitting in a lot of ways, being unique rather, because I don't necessarily identify in, let's say, Black America, what that looks like.
Yeah.
But I also don't fit into something else because I look
Yeah.
like I do. So making my own way, navigating childhood, sometimes that was rough.
Yes.
Experienced a lot of bullying, experienced a lot of
Racism?
Not racism.
Okay.
Not racism.
Yeah, because I want to talk about it in a minute,
Right.
but keep going.
Right. Just much more like children being children.
Fully.
Yeah.
We all go through that.
Yeah.
Black, white, red, orange,
Yeah.
it don't matter.
Everyone is familiar with that kind
Yeah.
of like judgment and experience with other people. So for myself, growing up and having to deal with that, I wondered what's up with the world. Mm-hmm. I also felt at a young age I had a very, let's say, keen sense of understanding. I wouldn't have said that back then, but I felt it. And wondering and always being curious about why things are happening. At some point, especially with the bullying experiences and not necessarily fitting in or relating to people in the way that I want to, I felt that the problem was me. because I couldn't point to anything else. So that, let's say, train of thought, that train of logic called me to contemplate suicide. That was like, by the time I was 13 years old, that's when the first time I started contemplating, like, why am I even here?
Wow.
Yeah. So there was a day I distinctly remember. It was like around midnight. I also wasn't having a great time at home because at some point my parents split when I was young. I was living with just my mom, so she had a tough job raising me. She's a strong woman. I respect her.
So you had a lot going on.
I had a lot
I'm
going
curious
on,
about this because my kids were subject to a divorced family. What was that like for you? How old when they got divorced?
They split when I was like around 3-4 years old.
And did your parents have good English?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, perfect English.
Okay. And so I'm imagining they're professionals of some sort?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what was it? So did divorce affect you at 3 or 4 years old, or how does all that work?
So honestly, this is like, I whenever I share things like this, is like, I got to keep in mind that I'm also a unique individual. So
Okay.
like for myself, I took it for what it was. Again, having a keen sense of understanding, not all parents, even when they, father or parent children, that they're ready to be parents or that they are meant to be together.
Well, and I also read on your website that we need to realize our parents are human beings.
Yes, we
So-
really
So
do.
you're cutting them all the breaks you can.
Yeah.
Which is you should.
Right. Because like,
Because you're a human being too, and someday
human.
you're gonna have kids. And
exactly. Like we want to be able to understand each other. Like we all go through things. We all
Right.
experience stuff. So it's like, it doesn't help us. It doesn't do us any justice saying, I'm better than you.
Yeah.
You should be like this, or judge
Yeah.
or cut you down because you did something wrong.
All right, I interrupt you. So let's take you to that 13-year-old kid who wants to commit suicide
Yeah.
or contemplating.
Yeah, so contemplating it. So there was this distinct day, I was having a tough day, like this challenge with my mom and I, and I remember this thinking, I'm like, I can leave the house right now. I can go to the bridge that's like maybe a mile away from my house and just jump. No one would stop me, whatever. As soon as I seriously thought about that, my mind went blank. And I like to refer to that moment as God speaking through me. Now, funny enough, God said nothing. But what I interpreted from that silence was that whatever that I felt angry about within the world, whatever I felt that I was giving to the world that I was also not receiving, changed my perspective and give myself whatever it is that I was giving to the world, and then let the results of that follow.
Powerful.
Because I know from myself, I am naturally a giving person. I want to help my people. I want to see people live fulfilled lives. I've always wanted people to be happy.
Yeah.
And knowing that if I give myself that happiness, if I take care of myself in the same way I take care of others, I'm going to be great.
Yeah.
And so that was, let's say, a tipping point for me to then get involved in sports, better my life. That got me to a boarding school through opportunities from athletics. And then from there, just kicked off all the way to, where I am today.
You have a very athletic body. What sports did you play?
So I started off with football and basketball, and then I added track to that. And then in my last year of college, I added rugby to that.
How about now? What kind of sports you do now?
Now I just play basketball. I play in a league in New York City. It's
Okay.
called the Dynasty League. I found that through a couple of friends that I volunteer with. I volunteer with an Asian organization that
Beautiful.
yeah, they want to help underprivileged youth in New York City and the surrounding area. So one of my good friends who I played basketball with in high school, he works for that organization. When I was living in New York City, I would volunteer, I'd help him coach and whatnot. And as soon as I had that first experience with those kids, I couldn't stop going.
It's so fulfilling.
Yeah.
It's really what life is about.
Yeah,
Once we experience that, we don't give it up.
exactly.
Okay, quick question. GOAT, LeBron or MJ?
Woo. I'm gonna go LeBron.
Oh, all these young
It's
guys.
tough.
All
It's
these
tough.
young guys.
But I'm not gonna discredit MJ for what he did and his historic greatness. There's something divine level about how he competed and about how he succeeded when he got to the highest stages. What I feel that often gets missed in these kind of conversations is that there's the context around MJ's career versus LeBron's career. You can always point to the perfection of MJ going 6-0.
Yeah.
When I think esoterically about perfection, I think about something, where we project something outside of the human experience.
Yeah.
As if like they're gods and we are not also, divine in our own right, which we can get to. But until Jordan had those opportunities to get there, he had a lot of failure. Now, LeBron in his own right had his own failure along the way. But the gravity of who LeBron is as a player and his success compiled with that makes him the GOAT for me.
Okay.
Because it encompasses a lot more than just basketball. It encompasses a lot more than just winning.
Yeah.
It's about how you do it, the process through which you do that.
Yeah.
For Jordan, he alienated a lot of people.
Right.
Sure, he was a great individual. His individual talents, with some support, got him to where he was. But LeBron by himself propelled people. He uplifted his people, people that probably should not have been in the positions that they were in. But he elevated them. And he's great on his own. And he's unselfish with how he plays the game. It's so natural to want to play with him. That's why that's why I consider him the greatest, because it's someone you can look up to and you can emulate that in your everyday life.
So I just accidentally stumbled onto one of your passionate subjects, and we could probably just dispute this forever.
Absolutely.
I see where Shannon Sharp just left Skip Bayless on Undisputed. So I could be Skip, you could be Shannon.
Hey, we can go at it.
We'll have if Fox, if you're watching, we got a new team. I'm not a big Skip Bayless fan. I'm a huge Shannon Sharp fan.
Mm-hmm.
We got a new team for you. I'll be the nice, respectable Shannon Sharp, and he's Skip Bayless, and he's your new Shannon Sharp, because this guy can talk.
Hey,
Okay.
Let's get it.
So let's talk about how you blow up in social media. You figured out digital marketing. Is that pretty accurate?
Yes.
And so, which I haven't. And it frustrates the hell out of me because, I'm 66. I come out of the automobile business. I was a car dealer.
Okay.
So marketing for me was TV, radio, newspaper, direct mail, right?
Understand.
And I hire an ad agency. I tell them what I want. They create it. Boom. This digital marketing thing is, for me, and, I don't have the patience anymore. I don't have the blah, blah, blah. I really don't want to spend all day on that computer.
Right.
So how did you blow up your digital? What's is there a secret or two? How do we go about blowing that up?
So there's very obvious things that people will tell you on the surface about consistency, showing up, etc. What doesn't get emphasized enough is, first of all, understanding what it is you want to accomplish on a platform. And even beyond that, one step further, what do you personally want to accomplish?
So when you started out, what were you trying to accomplish? And are we talking just Facebook, Instagram right now, or?
It can, so like, while the nuance is applying to Facebook, Instagram, because that's like where I spend most of my energy, it applies to any other network or any other concept.
So Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever.
Yeah.
But so let's focus on Facebook. Instagram seems to be the biggest, and TikTok seems to be.
And it's ascending.
Okay.
I'll say TikTok is the easiest to grow on, I will say personally, but I haven't used it yet, but I've seen people use it, even just like after like 5 days, just having their pages blow up.
But when it comes to monetizing, it would seem to me Instagram is easier to monetize.
Yeah, because there's a much more commercial audience on
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how'd you give the audience anything? Because I don't have to tell you this, but every American is either right now a podcaster,
Right.
a coach,
Right.
an influencer.
One of those.
I don't know who's making anything over there, but so give us a couple tips for everybody that wants to blow up their whatever.
Sure. So I'll share my personal story with how I got into that.
Perfect.
So like I run my personal Instagram account, B-Man Facts. When I was in the stages of doing.
When did you start it?
I started actually in the beginning of Instagram, like maybe a year afterwards. My first picture is actually a Sierra Mist, but like I was fascinated with the platform.
How long ago was that?
That was like 2012.
Okay, all right.
So like I've been on the platform like since then, but I haven't used it in a marketing capacity.
So you're the OG of IG.
OG. When I saw it originally, I saw the potential of what it could be, and I started playing around. So I spend time around places where people like to try unconventional methods to like grow or to hack the system, because it's a pretty political system. I think when you change your perspective to understand how these social platforms work, your life changes.
Yeah.
So I learned to play around those platforms. I played with Instagram for a while, and then when I got into affiliate marketing and the business stuff, that's when I started posting motivational quotes, my ideas, all these kind of things. At a certain point, I realized through that process that I was only going to be able to reach a certain amount of people based on the rules of the platform.
Yeah.
Based on, let's say, the politics of the platform. Now, they have their own agenda. They have the things that they care about. I realized at a certain point, I can only go so far. So let me stop and reevaluate what I actually want to accomplish. For myself, I wanted to get my stuff out there. I wanted my stuff to reach the people that it was intended to reach, and then let the people give me the feedback.
Who were you trying to reach?
The people that are interested in
Growth, personal development.
personal development, it doesn't even have to be that. If they're just want to learn something, they want to just like introspect.
So I want to come back to this, but I want to ask you about because you got into personal development, which led you probably more to spirituality eventually, right? For most of us.
Yeah.
So when you first got into personal development, like who did you follow? What books you read? What courses? Who did you see? All that.
Bob Proctor was huge.
Bob Proctor.
Bob Proctor, the legend.
He just passed, you know.
Yeah, he
I don't
did.
say that.
Rest in prosperity.
Yeah.
I followed Jim Rohn.
Well, Jim Rohn was probably the
Godfather.
He was the godfather of Tony Robbins, of course. Tony Robbins touched everybody in this space, everybody.
Yeah.
And of course, Bob Proctor, you know, really is my cup of tea, manifestation, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Who else?
I read Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
Probably obvious from that. Who else? Wallace Wattles.
Wallace Wattles. Yeah.
So I usually tell people, like, if they ask me like what books to read or whatever, I usually tell them there's like maybe one or two books that doesn't matter what you're interested in. If you read these books and you read them religiously, so like with the spiritual intention to like learn something, even if it's one line, one page or whatever, you're gonna be good. It's What You Say, What You Talk When You Talk to Yourself by Dr. Shad Hemsettler, and The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles.
Have you heard of the book The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy?
Yeah.
That had the biggest impact on me when I really started to get into this. But I mean that's really what's going on here. You know, this is what I tell everybody, you know, we are all manifestors. You manifested everything in your life.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to own it or ignore it? Because if you ignore it, you're now a victim and you didn't manifest nothing and you're subject to everything. Yep. But when you own the fact that you manifest everything in your life and you're responsible, now you're a creator. And now you can become a creator with the ability to manifest what you're trying to create, and it only gets better and better and better.
I bring that up at the end of my book in the first chapter of Separation, basically setting the foundation to understand truth. You know, red pill, blue pill, victimhood, red pill awareness, activation, evoking your self-power. And you have, with the knowledge, you can either ignore it, use it, or become it.
And let's talk about this racism too. So here's what I see. And I was a businessman in Oakland, California for 26 years. And then I had a nonprofit there for half a dozen years. And I worked with a lot of African Americans, especially in the nonprofit. And I don't think it's a race, I think it's an economic issue. And I think it's been orchestrated with an agenda to take that community and introduce drugs way back in the 60s, heroin and crack cocaine in the 80s, for whatever reason. I don't know why. But for me, I was born white in America in 1957, okay? A kid born in Oakland, California today doesn't have anywhere near the opportunity that I had. That's the injustice.
Right.
You know, not that they're black and I'm white.
Right.
No, it's the economic opportunity and the education opportunity.
Right.
Okay, so even though I didn't go to school, I was still around smart people. Okay, but I had opportunities, you know. So because my parents were middle class.
Right.
Well, you're born poor, or even worse, if you're born in Palestine.
Right.
I mean, you're only subject to your program and your environment. You can use what we're talking about. We can use all this to become a better Palestinian in a shitty neighborhood. Okay,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
But there is a ceiling. You know, I know I teach there's no ceiling, but in reality there is a ceiling to a certain. If we're gonna, because I think we have to stay in reality. You know, books like Think and Grow Rich. Yeah, I love the book. Don't get me
Right.
wrong. But you got to do more than think.
Exactly.
You got to get your ass off the couch and go do something.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm sorry to segue like that.
Well, let me
Please,
follow up on that.
thank
So
you.
like what I like to say is that there's like multiple realities that can be true. So with race, I think that there's a component embedded in the history of, let's say, America and beyond, where there are individuals. I'm not going to say everyone. I'm not going to say all white people. I'm not going to say all these kind of people. But there's people with power to disseminate and program people.
I agree.
With their personal agendas.
Yes.
That have affected and have created the circumstances through which, as you're describing, there are economic injustices that go on in the world. And sometimes they are perpetuated by people who hear this program and receive this program.
Right.
To then perpetuate, well, you know, we are superior than these people, so we should keep them.
Right.
Right.
Well,
But
yeah,
still,
that probably does exist way out here.
Yeah.
But when you get down to my level, it doesn't exist. That's what I mean.
You may not know.
Yeah.
Exactly. You may not know. You may
No,
not
I believe it does
Right.
exist
Yeah.
up there. But when I'm talking everyday racism is not. It's not what they're trying to make it out to be, because
Right.
they're really trying to divide white and black even more.
Now that, yes.
Yes, that's
absolutely.
programming, and
That's
that has an
definitely-
agenda.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm speaking.
Like saying, like at the end of it, like you're saying, all these things can be true. We can experience that, we can understand that, and still, someone with my pigment, they face the same things. You
Yes.
still have to face the same fundamental things.
Yes.
Also, at the same time, if you want to play a comparison game, which I advocate people don't do, for the exact reason, because it perpetuates suffering and all these kind of things. But there are people in other conditions and other places in the world. We're in a place right now where there's a decorated history of violence and people that were forcibly put in, let's say, put in poverty because of the violence that's happened in our history.
Yes.
In the history here.
Yes.
Are we going to really compare apples to oranges or whatever?
can't.
Right?
Yeah.
I think the best thing, sure, you can acknowledge that there are injustices in the world and that there are things that personally affect you. And at some point, while they're justified or whatnot, you have to get up. Something has to call within
Right.
you. Whether it's God-given, whether it's the pain that you feel within you or whatever, you gotta get up and do something.
Yes. And that was powerful. Thank you for that.
Of course.
Because look, I want to ask you this, but let me give you a little insight. Because
Sure.
I see a major shift going on in the world, right? And I'm 66, so I have more reference as far as the physical 3D world. I've seen more, right?
Right.
And what I see is that, we were born into all these systems. We're born into a family system, a medical system, a financial system, an education system, a political system, on and on and on and on. All those systems are to control us. And what we really want is freedom. We want our own sovereignty. So right away from day one, there's a disconnect. And I was a kid, I figured it out like in the first grade, okay?
Yeah.
That this is all programming, and the stuff they're trying to tell me, I don't believe. And even in first grade, I believe this. And so I quit going to school. We're basically in 8th grade. I saw it as, hey, I show up at 8, I get a coffee break at 10, I eat at noon, I get another coffee break at 2, I go home at 4. You're grooming me to be a worker bee, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, all the shit you're trying to teach me, it doesn't resonate with me because I'm not thinking, I'm not learning. I'm memorizing, I'm regurgitating, I'm forgetting.
Right.
And so I think we need a major shift. But where I'm going with this is I see all that systems breaking, which is great, right?
Yeah.
But there's going to be some suffering, pain and suffering, gnashing of the teeth, what the Bible says. But what I see is the energy shifting, and we're going to raise consciousness, and we're going to create a new, better physical reality based on love and contribution and community and integrity and responsibility. And so what I'm excited about how old are you?
29 now.
29. You're 29 years old. You're evolved, you're bright, you're motivated, you're passionate, and you have a heart to serve.
Of course.
But I also see a lot of kids that they can't get off their damn thing, and they're nowhere.
Right.
And so that's super concerning. How do you see the world? When you look at the world today, what excites you and what scares you? Or what concerns you?
What excites me is that let's start with these things.
Yeah.
We have the capacity to connect in a way that we have not ever been able to connect
Okay.
ever in our history. Even our ability to do this right now and then
Yep.
be able to connect with the whole audience.
Well, because you could be in America, you could be in
Exactly.
Uganda, we can still do it.
Exactly. Like that cannot be overstated enough, and that gives us the potential to be able to connect and to bridge our world together. Now, what concerns me generally, not as over like I'm worried about this,
Yeah.
but like I believe we'll overcome. But
Yeah.
I think about the story of Atlantis all the time. Fundamentally, what I get from the story is that they had all the technology in the world. They had all these resources, just like we have all these things here today to be able to do transformative things. We can cure cancer. We can do all these kind of things if we utilize these things in the right way.
Right.
Yet, if we don't have the cultivation, the spiritual cultivation and the heart empathy to use these tools responsibly and in a discerning fashion, then we destroy our society.
Yes.
So with these things, again, we have the capacity to connect, we have the capacity to create, we have the capacity to reach people and evolve and build transformative things, but we also have the power to destroy.
Yes.
It's left in the individuals. And so what concerns me is where people are when they are interacting with this stuff.
Right.
When I was growing up, and before, I was growing up with this stuff going on. You probably were growing up as
Dude, we had black and white TV, okay?
Exactly. Like it's like a different space and different time with different things. Right?
And it's moved so quickly.
And
that's
it moves so fast.
That's the worrying some part for me.
Right. Like I was able to grow up with this stuff and actually feel the evolution with it and grow up and mature with it.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people nowadays that are like born in the 2000s and beyond, they're seeing this like, and just like, it's just hitting the ground running.
Dude.
Yeah.
I can write a book in ChatGPT in 4 hours.
Exactly. Like now we can do that. It's just like, what? And so there's going to be such an abundance. Speaking of ChatGPT and other things like that, there's going to be an abundance of things, an abundance of ways of connecting that it may not necessarily be used responsibly, or it may not be used in a way that is for the betterment of human beings. Maybe there'll be a lot of entertainment. People love their entertainment. I was actually thinking about Instagram and thinking about how the evolution of the platforms happened over the course of the years.
Yeah.
It's transforming from a space where you're just sharing video, like pictures and quality content, to now you have to really entertain people.
Yes. Or you got about 3 seconds.
Right.
You know, when I sold cars,
Like
I
that.
teach my people, I say, hey man, you got about a minute to make a first good impression. Now that doesn't mean they're gonna buy from you.
Right.
But in 1 minute they decide not to buy to you. You know, and
Exactly.
same thing, we got to catch them like that. So you have to have valuable, fresh content, and it's got to be quick. Correct?
Yeah.
So back to this spiritual evolution, because I feel it's moving so fast
Right.
that most people are so consumed, maybe even addicted to this, that they tend to ignore their physical well-being, their mental well-being, their spirit. So I look at you, super physically fit, so you haven't ignored your physical well-being. And the reason this interests me is I'm building a health retreat center here.
Right.
What do you do for your physical well-being?
The biggest thing, the most consistent thing that I do is I reflect and I integrate. And so,
Is that your meditation practice?
generally speaking, yeah. And my meditation could be either just walking.
Yeah.
I could just be looking out a window.
But you don't have a technology in your
But
hand.
yeah,
You're connected to the field of infinite
Tapped in.
possibilities. Yeah.
Right. And so like I will reflect, I will integrate, and I'll move forward. Now with my upbringing, playing sports and whatnot, I have like the habitual need and like desire to just like want to take care of my body,
Right.
do things, move around. Also my energetic like capacity just calls me to move and do stuff.
Yeah.
So like there's a combination of those things, but for practicality, I definitely just reflect, integrate, and speaking of, let's say, reflecting and integrating, keeping this vessel healthy, knowing that that's the starting point.
Exactly.
Like there are people that believe that if you just cultivate the spiritual, that everything's going to be taken care of, which is only part of the picture. There are other aspects. There's a reason why we live through these physical forms. There's a reason why we're here. If there wasn't, we wouldn't be here.
No need.
So we have to once we acknowledge that and we take care of this, and then we also cultivate the spiritual, we also cultivate the mental capacities and expand our intelligence, then that's when everything comes together. That's when it harmonizes, it becomes whole.
Yeah.
And we realize what's already within and what's already present.
Because if this thing is sick, I don't care. Here's what I say. Jesus could have come down here, okay? He had one of the greatest messages of all time.
Right.
Whether he's a prophet or the son of God, who cares? His message was profound. But if Mom and Joseph and Mary had given him ho-hos and ding-dongs all day long, and he weighed 400 pounds, he never would have gotten off the couch in Bethlehem or wherever he lived, or wherever he was, Galilee or wherever, and go out and spread the good word. So we live in a duality.
Exactly.
Hot, cold, black, white, good, evil, right?
Yeah.
So we have to take care of this to be able to function in that spiritual world and in that mental world and be able to manifest. But because I have mercury poisoning right now, and it's like yesterday I swear I wanted to jump off the balcony here, right?
Right.
Because not because I have mercury poisoning,
Right.
because I didn't know what the fix was, okay? And therefore, I was struggling with hope and future, right? And I know better,
Yeah.
but as a result, I said, I got to fix this. So I'm up all night on YouTube. I listen to a doctor, says, you got to be your own detective. I have a really powerful meeting with a doctor who specializes in mercury poisoning.
Right.
We thought it was dental, it's not. So now what is it? So now I become a detective. And by 8 o'clock this morning, I figured it out. And now I know what to stop ingesting and poisoning myself every day.
Right.
And now I know I'm on the road to healing. And that's profound. But I'm a very spiritual, loving, kind, trying to help the world. But when your physical body's in pain and you're suffering, all that shit goes out the window.
Yeah.
You know?
Like it's fundamentally ignorance is the suffering. Ignorance is the disease.
Yes.
And then it manifests its way through the body and through all the other ways. When you neglect awareness, and when you neglect your body, then that's when the stuff starts happening.
Yes.
It's a fascinating thing. I remember I was exposed to something about talking about nature and how viruses operate.
Yeah.
I was very fascinated. The essence of it is like viruses are pretty neutral. Like they just gather information, they just go through and pass through and like just gather information. And then they decide what they want to do with that information afterwards.
Yeah.
And for us, when we're, let's say, fighting disease, what happens is our body's not aware that there's something going on. And that's when it gets in there.
Yeah.
When we're not aware.
When we're not conscious.
When we're not consciously, exactly. And we're not attentive.
Yes.
That's when the things invade, and that's when they take over, and that's when they do the things that are disruptive.
Yeah.
It also manifests physically when we're not taking care of the things that we need to in our day-to-day lives.
Right. Exactly right. Well, you know, and here's the thing. Here's a beautiful thing. You know, the Bible says that, you know, God makes everything work together and come together. So even when you have a loss or a hardship, eventually you can make it work.
Yes.
So here I am building a 2-week transformational health retreat, dealing with all these physical health problems.
Right.
So it's only made me more hungry to learn more.
Right.
It's made the education that we're going to be able to give our guests more profound. We're going to be able to go deeper.
Right.
So I have to look at this as a blessing.
Yeah.
It especially is a blessing now I know I can fix it. But when I didn't know I could fix it, that was uncomfortable for me.
Absolutely.
You know? And I feel physically sick, you know.
Yeah.
And that's super uncomfortable, of course.
I hear that.
So let's talk about Uganda. And I see where you returned home at one point to Uganda, and because your grandfather had passed.
My grandmother, yeah.
Your grandmother. And so, first question pops in my mind, real quick answer, and then a longer question. One, is there racism there? If I go there, will I experience racism? Just curious, I have no idea.
I don't think you will.
I assume not.
I think you'll be welcome there.
I assume so. I've heard nothing but good things about you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah,
people.
exactly. Yeah. And so, what was that experience like? Was that the first time you went home?
That was, I think, my third or fourth time going back.
When's the first time? How old were you?
Ooh, I'm stretching my memory here. So I think
You're 29 years old, dude.
I know. Like, is it going already?
Come on.
I want to say I went when I was like 8 years old or something like that. I was pretty young.
What was that like?
Oh, what was that like? It was interesting. I wasn't like shell shocked or anything like that. I didn't feel like a culture shock. What I was intrigued by was that here I was, kind of like the story that I like lived with about like not fitting in.
Okay.
Because I was American born.
Now you really don't fit in there, do you?
Right. I don't. Yeah. But it's like when I came from America to go there, I was made aware like people were watching me. Like they were specifically
because you're the American.
Yeah. And I didn't know what made me stick out because like most everyone looks like me in some shape or fashion. And my cousins made me aware it's because I actually look so clean.
Oh.
Like even like I was told not to like wear all my nice stuff or whatever like that. And I understood that. Like,
right.
Blend in. Right. But even with the not nice stuff, I still like stood out. And I wasn't a large human at all. I was a child.
Oh.
But I looked cleaner than the other kids, or I looked slightly.
Well,
different.
you probably had different way to clean yourself than them. That's all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I noticed that, and that was interesting. But outside of like that one instance, though, I was very welcomed by my family. They were excited to meet me because that was my first time going there, and it was like basking in the energy of my family. It was awesome.
So I found interesting in your blog, you go back there, your grandmother's passed, and you were upset because your mother was upset.
Absolutely.
And then you wrote about releasing your guilt. Can you elaborate a little bit about that?
So, kind of this whole story of just being different.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I'm also cognitively an introvert. So
what's that mean? Mentally, you want to be quiet in a crowd.
So like, I get energy and I do my best stuff when I'm in my own space.
Okay, gotcha.
So like, I function best when I'm in my own space and it's uninterrupted. It's just me in there. When I interact with people, I'm obviously welcoming to interact with people. I'm very social. I love my people. I love interacting with the world. And at the same time, at a certain point, it becomes too much. And so what tends to happen in, let's say, Ugandan families and families like mine, like when there's a foreign-born child and, you know, families are still connected, they all want to know who this kid is. They all want to know who he is. They all want to meet him. They all want to do all these kind of things. And for me, as a young person, that's very overwhelming.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, uncomfortable and overwhelming. You know, I don't know, like, I know their family, but I don't have a physical presence to, like, match them with.
Right.
When I meet people in, like, my physical life, my family in my physical life, that's not overwhelming at all for me. But when there's all these people that are like thousands of miles away from me that want to have an interaction with me, for me, it was just, I didn't know what to do with that.
Right.
And so naturally, as I got older, or I carried that feeling of just like being different and being separate in a lot of ways. I also heard some stories just like about family drama and whatnot, and I just didn't want to put myself in the middle of that. And so fast forward as I got older and as I started, you know, visiting Uganda and meeting more family and whatnot, I kind of just kept my space. I kind of kept my space from all that because I had my own things that I needed to do. I had my own life that I had to take care of and whatnot. And it didn't serve me trying to serve two lives or serve two different lifestyles.
Yeah.
I had to pick one, and I picked mine because I know eventually I can get back to that. I can take care of whatever needs to get taken care of. But as a consequence of that, being distant from family, I didn't have a close relationship with my grandparents. I didn't have a close relationship with other people that were associated with that. And so I was in a situation where my grandma had just passed. This actually just happened as I released my book.
Oh.
Yeah. So
How long ago?
This was in 2018.
Okay.
So like I had just released my book. My grandma passed. Had a whole bunch of family come over, and then like a week later, I had to go catch a flight. So here I am going to Uganda, you know, to mourn my grandmother and bury her. At the same time, when I look at all the other, let's say, grandchildren that are there, all my other cousins and whatnot, the stark difference is that all of them had a very, very close relationship with her. I literally was the only one that did not have that.
So you kind of stood out again.
Yeah. And so like that instance, even though I loved my grandma, even though like I had so much love for them, by practice, I was the one that was distant.
Right.
And if I kind of felt that energy from that. And so like the guilt overcame me at that moment.
Okay.
And so like my association and my strong feelings about my grandma passing, while I did care about her, and yes, I understand people pass. When I was young, I had my closest uncle pass when I was young. Like he was a vibrant human being. He had so much love to give to the world, someone that like I emulate in a lot of ways. And like I literally saw him, like his dead body in the casket. I literally could see it. So like death did not faze me. But seeing that it broke my mother, that killed me.
Yeah.
So much. So like what I shared from that, when I carried that feeling into the funeral space when we were all given the chance to speak. I surprisingly, I was the one that did all the speaking for the grandchildren.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, but like it was like the one that was like not close to her did all the speaking.
But you probably were maybe more accomplished in that role than everybody else too.
Probably.
And so you probably was a blessing to everybody.
Yeah.
And they were probably more emotional, and you could be more present.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, we got to get back to where we got to bring all this together here. So you're blowing up Instagram. You're in that world.
Right.
You got in early, and was there a breakthrough at some point where you said, "Hey, this is the magic formula," or is it constantly evolving, or how does that game work?
Right. So the short version is, I decided. I noticed I took a study on the platform. That was the big thing. I took a study. I took a look at what people were doing in my general space. I noticed there are a lot of pages that were faceless. They were just like faceless brands or just people just re-sharing content all the time. And so I realized, I'm like, they're not doing this in a way that I would consider like business-like, such that they're just kind of reposting and they just got a following by accident. I realized that once Instagram got an algorithm, that they're going to prioritize a certain way of posting. And so I decided to start pages. I decided to start pages with good branding.
Different pages.
Different pages.
Okay, so do you have this one over here, completely different?
They are all in the spiritual space right now.
Okay.
But they are branded uniquely.
Okay.
But the premise of all
Is that more work for you, or?
Well, I'll get into that in a
Okay,
second.
okay.
But they all have the same premise. Quality content, or content that people like already. So I'm not trying to recreate the wheel. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. Use what already works. Post it consistently. Let it work. And so I had my breakthrough in 2019 when I actually started running these pages. Now, I run over 80 pages. The network is over 7 million followers.
Wow.
But what people fail to what people get, shell-shocked, like, how do you run 80 pages? How do you run that many pages?
Yes.
And the secret for me was using automation. putting it on a scheduling system, because I don't like, there are other people
But
that
what
use
about the content?
the content.
Yeah, that you're posting.
Mostly reshared content.
Okay.
Mostly reshared or repurposed.
Okay.
And if you want to create your own, to be safe completely, just again see what has already worked,
Copy.
and then just recreate that.
Tony Robbins, model somebody that's successful. Copy.
Yep. And then once you have that base, because what I cared about was having the leverage to be able to put my content out there, get feedback, and then evolve from there. Before, I'm only working with, let's say, 5,000, 6,000 followers, which that's a great number of people. But that audience may not necessarily care for the kind of content that I'm sharing. So my feedback is going to be very, very limited. I need to get my stuff in front of people that actually matter, that would actually give me the effective feedback that I needed to then tweak and, evolve. Yeah. And so after I cultivated that, then I created my Instagram related page for my book, Break the Illusion. And then that's when I started sharing the content from there. And that took my page from 0 to like 10, 15K in less than 2 to 3 months.
So are you what people would call an influencer?
I wouldn't consider myself one, but I wouldn't. I mean,
let me ask you this: if you put on a pair of Ray-Bans, is Ray-Ban going to pay you to blah blah blah?
No.
I don't know how any of that works. So I know if Kim Kardashian puts on a pair of Ray-Bans,
she's getting paid.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between how do you monetize this, or do you, or is it all about selling your book? What is your purpose in this? Is it money? Is it helping? Is it loving? What is it?
So for the Instagram related part, or rather that part is part of a larger thing for myself. Freedom and wanting to live on your own terms and do the things you want to do. To be able to do that, working backwards from that standpoint, you need to have the leverage to be able to do that. Whether it's assets, whether it's owning property, whether it's the money, cash flow, whatever it is. For myself, I saw a very non-resistive way to do that, having little money to my name. A free platform where you could build thousands, if not millions of followers, and then use that to then create money generating opportunities or connection opportunities.
Give me an example of a good money generating opportunity.
So the easiest way for myself is people actually reaching out to me to leverage my network.
Okay, so I could come to you and say, hey man, I need to sell this or that. Can you help me out? Kind of thing? Okay. So you are kind of an influencer or affiliate marketing. Would you consider that more affiliate marketing?
It can lean that way.
Okay.
For let's say the last year I did affiliate marketing in the spiritual space with astrology products and related products like that.
Okay, I get it now. Okay, got it. Yeah.
But the easier way, which I actually preferred, and I actually started getting back into it, where people were paying for posts on my page.
Okay.
So,
So these people are always contacting me.
Yeah.
Let us do this and we'll give you this. And it's a lot of money.
Right.
And I always figured it was a scam. Is it a scam?
No. Well, it
On who
depends
they are.
It depends on who they are. If they're telling you they can get you, let's say, likes, follows, and all these kind of things, probably that's...
No, what they're saying, they want to put an ad on my page.
Oh, they want to put an ad on your page.
Yeah.
It depends on how much you trust that.
Okay, yes, exactly. Which I didn't trust it, so
Right.
but I get it all the time.
Right. Like, so for example...
But it's worth looking into, is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
for sure. Like there was an instance where I had one of my pages is 250,000 followers. Someone reached out and said, I want to do advertising. I have an upfront budget of $8,000. I'll pay it to you upfront.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear someone saying those things, I'm like,
yeah, right.
yeah, okay. I'm like, I first thing I do, I click their profile. I see there's nothing on there. I'm like, okay, no. But if it's someone with an actual brand,
okay,
then I'm going to listen. And then I'm going to respond to them and whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so why Medellin? And how often are you here?
So this is my 4th time here. I originally came because my best friend, Brandon, the entrepreneur he is and the world explorer that he is.
Are you referring to the crypto king of Medellin?
The crypto king of Medellin,
Okay.
Brandon Zeb. We've been close ever since college, playing football together.
Okay. Yeah, because I knew I'd heard that college once before, and now I know where. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So being entrepreneurial at the same time and whatnot, and just like living together, we've always been close. And so we've stayed in contact over the years, and he was letting me know about all his plans. And one of them at the time, let's say around 2017, 2018, was he wanted to go explore the world, change his perspective and whatnot. And following a lot of smart people and being surrounded by a lot of smart people, he knew that money was coming down here. And so him talking to me about it, he's like, I want to come down here. I'm going to go check it out. Told me he checked it out once. He loved it. And in 2019, he wanted to come down here for a month. And he invited me to come down here. He's like, yo, just get your plane ticket and we'll take care of the rest. So I came down here for the first time with him. Hey, it was a great time.
All right, let's not say any more good things about it because it's getting too crowded. Did you play the crypto game at all? Did you invest in crypto?
Yeah, so I started buying and investing in cryptos in 2017. After Brandon got involved with Ethereum, so like I'm like, I could have done that, but I took a unique approach because I care more about the social, or rather, I care a lot, and I get really interested in the social dynamics that crypto brings to societies.
Like how? What?
So like banking the unbanked, decentralizing, let's say, healthcare tech, making healthcare accessible in a lot of places, especially in the United States, decentralizing that and making it accessible for people, giving people identities where they didn't have them before.
Yeah.
Basically creating avenues for people to interact with the modern world and then give them the opportunities to get themselves out of poverty or to do the things that they want to do.
Yeah.
Whether it's create, share, live, whatever it may be. So
Yeah.
I saw crypto as that, disguised as first,
And it's not really, it's the blockchain technology.
blockchain,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, which I don't know much about, but I want to ask you this question because you do. Because, election fraud is a big subject in America right now.
right.
And when I think about it, I go, well, why don't they just use this blockchain technology to do the elections and become fraud free, would it?
It would, but
They don't want fraud free elections.
Hey, on that podcast with Brandon that I did, the Crypto King, like I mentioned, like when I think about it, this is so powerful because it gives us the transparency that we need as a society, what we ask for, to be able to move things forward in, let's say a healthy way for society.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's still actors in place that are benefiting and actually are incentivized to make sure that things are opaque or not transparent at all.
Right.
So having something like this is deeply, deeply threatening to that kind of system.
Yes. Well, and that's why they're trying right now to get rid of it. Some countries have gotten rid of it, like China.
Yeah.
But some countries have made it their major currency, like right down here somewhere, El Salvador. That's their currency.
Yeah.
So one got rid of it, one embraced it, and now America's trying to get rid of it.
Right.
Because they want to put their own digital currency in.
Yep.
So we won't get into that. And by the way, you're a great writer. I spent some time on your website today. You have a nice website. You're an excellent writer. And you write, no man is a prophet in his own land. What do you mean by that? And if you're like me, I write stuff and then I forget. So
I remember what I was thinking about at that specific time. So typically, or at least what I think is that typically when we are growing up, or when we are living through a certain circumstance, there's a certain kind of reputation that we have, or a certain way people around us understand who we are.
Yeah.
And at some point, if you want to break through and live the life you want to live, then, and let's say let that life be the prophet, let that be the teacher, you have to break out of that mold.
Yes.
For a lot of people, they don't break out of that mold.
Yes.
And so no one is a prophet in their own land is because unless they take the opportunity to break out of the comfort zone that is their lives and where they are, they'll never actually realize the prophethood. They'll never realize what's beyond.
Yes.
What's beyond let's say the ordinary, the mundane, or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
And so there's that part. The other part of it is, practically speaking, a lot of people who aspire to do a lot of things. They aspire to be great writers, great actors, or you may name it. It's hard to do that in the space of the people that are just around you.
Because they're going to knock you.
Exactly.
I remember reading, I forget what town Jesus grew up in. I know he did a lot of work in Jerusalem. I know he was born in Bethlehem. Maybe Nazareth where he grew up. But to there, he was just Joseph the carpenter's son, Mary's son. He was nobody.
Exactly.
And then he went to, I believe, India, became a guru, and came back and did all this stuff. But that's interesting. Then you say, you ask the question, can you rely on your friends for support on your personal journey to success? Can you rely on your friends on your journey? You asked that question. What's the answer?
It depends on who your friends are.
In your case?
In my case, I have a few that I can rely on for sure.
But we have to be careful, don't we?
Yep.
Because not everybody wants what's best for us.
Exactly.
Even in our closest. And what I've found is you acquire more wealth, then you have to even be more careful.
Discerning.
Yes. You have to be discerning. It's unfortunate. But there's people who have an agenda. And that's why I really try to live from my heart, And because I know my heart can never screw you.
Right.
Okay, but if you and I get up here, anything can happen, right? Because this
Exactly.
can manipulate, lie, cheat, steal. This can't.
Right.
What else is on your heart today? Anything you'd like to really tell the audience? Say, man, this is what I want for you. This is how I see things. This is what I feel. This is what I want for you.
You know, this morning I was thinking about it because I knew I was coming. I was like, you know, what is one thing I was reflecting on this the other day. I thought back to one of the first podcasts that I ever did on my book. And there was this concept that I talked about very, very frequently. It's about how to actually live the life you want to live. Simplified. Think about all the things that you may want, whether it's money, fame, whether it's cars, relationships, you name it. Fantasize, have fun. Doesn't matter, I can't judge you for it. Notice how you feel about that. Notice what feeling that is conjured up for you. Now, if you notice how you feel in that moment, that's actually what you are looking for. You're not looking for those things out there. You're not looking for all those things that you can point out. You can point out to. You're trying to get to that feeling.
Yes.
Because you feel it's separated. But when you make a game out of it, when you put these things as the marker of your success and of your feeling, you separate yourself from that.
Yeah.
So we play ourselves doing that.
Right.
But the real secret is you've already won because you got the feeling right there.
Right.
You recognized it.
And once you have that feeling, odds are it's going to show up because you're vibrating at that energy.
Right.
Right.
And even more powerfully, too, if you recognize how you feel in that moment, fantasizing and all, take that feeling and ask yourself, whether you literally ask yourself or you imagine, what am I doing right now? What can I do right now that honors that feeling?
Yeah.
If you successfully do that every single day, or you don't even have to do it every single day, but if you do it consistently enough throughout your life, the things that actually outwardly reflect how you feel will show themselves. Whether it's those things,
Yes.
and if it is those things, they'll come much faster than any other way, or there's a million other different ways that it can manifest.
Amen. Amen. Because we're co-creating with God.
Yes.
You know, and so I put an intention, like this wellness center I'm building, right? It
Right.
started with this intention. It's way over here now. It's bigger, better than we ever imagined because we put it out there and we bring it back and then we manifest new thoughts and things and it evolves.
Exactly.
Super powerful. Okay, so how can people, what's your book? Talk about a little bit about your book, your website, how people can find you, where they can follow you on social media.
Okay, so my book's called Break the Illusion.
Break the illusion. What does that mean, by the way, to you? Just in elevator pitch, break the illusion. What does that mean? What is the illusion?
The illusion is whatever is keeping us from living the lives that we want to live. And it's also the enabler of us living the lives we want to live at the same time.
Yeah.
You can find that on my website, justbejonga.com. If you go to the top panel, there'll be a section that literally says Break the Illusion. Click that, scroll down, hit the download now button. It's free. If you want to find me personally, BManFacts on Instagram, BManFacts_ on Twitter, Break the Illusion _ on Instagram as well.
Or any other IG
Or
channel.
any other IG that is related.
Well, I just want to say, hey, I really appreciate you coming over.
I appreciate you having me.
It's been a pleasure to meet you. I'm very impressed with who you are, what you are. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? What's your intention for 5 years from now for you?
I'm living whole, happy, holistic, and I'm contributing to the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want a rich, deep life, just write that sentence down, put it on a little card, carry it around, because we all want to be whole. We all want to be wealthy and healthy, and we all need to serve and love one another, and we can transform everything that's wrong with this consciousness that we're experiencing right now, and we can usher heaven back on the earth. Thank you so much for being my guest. I'll be right back with your Mountains of Hope segment and your Power Your Voice segment.
Blessings.
Discover a new you at Mountains of Hope, the ultimate wellness retreat. Detox your body with doctor-approved juice fasting and IV nutrition, using fresh fruits and veggies from Colombia's rich soil. You will be tested throughout the process according to your and your body's needs for a personalized experience. Relax your mind with yoga, meditation, while learning to heal yourself by following a 9-week doctor-supervised protocol. Heal your soul with emotional support from our caring staff who will follow up with you for a year after your retreat. Mountains of Hope, where transformation lasts.
Imagine if you could tune into the frequency of creation, the vibration that connects you to the source of all abundance. That's what the Creation Frequency course and book will show you how to do. You will learn from Mike Murphy, who used this technique to go from a miserable and hopeless situation to a successful and happy one. You will also benefit from a 7-week program, a private community, and new tools. The Creation Frequency is not just a course or a book, it's a way of life. Join now and see for yourself.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Hey, I'm very happy that I got to meet Bulolo and talk to him, and I'm super happy that I got to introduce him to you. For me, here's a 29-year-old man that's awake, present, conscious, living out of his heart, following his purpose, doing good for the world. And I got to spend a lot of time with him after the interview. I took him up to our Healing Retreat Center, Mountains of Hope, about 30 minutes from here, and really got to know him. And I look forward to continuing our friendship. And so I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. And if you did, if you heard something that resonated for you or someone you might know, please share it. What I want to do now is talk about grief. I see friends or people I know on Facebook posting their loss, their grief, and it's heartbreaking. And mostly it's a loss of a child, a parent losing a child. I know in my case I lost my wife, but her mom lost a child. And grief is very, very difficult. So I wrote this a while back. I have a new book coming out called Death, the Greatest Illusion, How You'll Never Die. And in writing that, I wrote this little piece. I just want to share it with you. I hope you don't mind me reading. Starts out, grief, a journey from unbearable sadness to my greatest gift. And that was my experience. The definition of grief is deep sorrow, especially that caused by someone's death. The stronger the bond, affection, love, the deeper the grief. In my first year of the grief, for sure the hardest, I ran across this quote from the 12th century poet Rumi. Grief can be the garden of compassion. If you keep your heart open through everything, your pain can become your greatest ally in your life's search for love and wisdom. And believe me, 12 years later now, I can attest to that. When I saw this quote, I loved it, but thought that it would never apply to me, as the pain I was experiencing at the time was all-consuming, unrelenting, every second of every minute of every hour, and every hour of every day was full of soul-crushing sadness, a state I assumed at the time was my eternal state. The first few months I cried, I wailed, screamed, out from the depth inside of me that I did not even know existed, at least 100 times per day. I could not fight it nor stop it. Unfortunately, eventually I learned to just go with it, accept it, feel it, and let those enormous tears flow from my eyes over and over, oblivious to the fact that those salty tears were in fact watering my soul and slowly but surely healing my broken heart. So cry and then cry some more and scream out, let it all out. And then one day the screaming will subside because it's all out. The tears will come less and less, and then one day a very unexpected thing will happen. Amongst the torrential flood of sad tears, a few other tears will emerge. Perhaps a tear of gratitude or love or joy will be interspersed with the tears of sadness. And in this slight moment of awareness, a subtle shift, a little miracle will take place. And in this moment, a thought will arise. Perhaps I can survive this. Perhaps the overwhelming feeling of sadness, of loss, of grief, of regret, of guilt, maybe one day, I will feel love again, joy, gratitude again, and hope is born again. If you are in the first year of grief, please know that it is the worst by far, and that's okay. Why is it the worst? Because it's the year first birthday without your loved one, first Christmas, first everything without that person being here with you in the physical world. But please remember, if you want to be comforted, they are still here, just not in body. You can still talk about them with those that will listen. And anyone that will sit there and listen, that is your greatest friend at this time in your life. and you can talk with your loved one in silence as much as you want. They are there, and they are listening, and they love you deeply. So the year first is the hardest, and you may not believe it now, but I promise you, each year gets easier until one day your grief may become your greatest gift. When I'm asked about grief, I always tell the person, I have good news and bad news. The bad news is that your life will never be the same. The good news is that you will never be the same. Going to a movie will never be the same. Holidays and birthdays will never be the same. Watching a sunset will never be the same. But if you go through this, as Rumi suggests, with an open heart, sober, conscious, and aware, if you go through the storm, feeling every ounce of the heavy sadness, you will be so transformed, changed to your very core, and that pain and suffering will make you wise well beyond your years and teach you how to love so deeply from a well so deep that your love will never end nor die. So in closing, cry, cry, and cry until your tears run dry. Well, guys, if you know someone's going through grief, just be there and be present, because it's tough, believe me. And a lot of people are going through it right now. The world is going a little haywire, and love is the answer. So until next time, go out there, live your life with passion, and create the life of your dreams.
Thank you for listening to The Power of Your Voice with Mike Murphy. This podcast is brought to you by Mike Murphy Unfiltered, The Creation Frequency, Mountains of Hope, and the Love from Margot Foundation. These sponsors are dedicated to helping you unleash your full potential and live a life of joy and abundance. If you enjoyed this episode, please visit our website at mikemurphyunfiltered.com and subscribe to our podcast.